the simple premise of this movie is that John Cena plays this guy who was a former mercenary, and his friend, played by Christian Slater, started this mercenary group. They're basically private security for good people and bad people. So John Cena's character has to accompany Allison Brie to this fictional country in South America where there's a new dictator installed that may be overthrown. And Allison Brie is this journalist who's going to get the first interview with this dictator about the unrest in his fictional South American country. That's the premise. So of course it's like it's not a romantic comedy, but it does have all this comedy involving John Cena and Allison Brie as they like each other? Do they not? John Cena has a family. He has a young daughter and a wife, but the wife and he are on the outs. They might be getting a divorce. So romance is actually an option that's on the table for him. And it's one of those, look at this awkward pairing. John Cena can use knives and guns and machine guns and rocket launchers. And Allison Brie is this like hoity-toity girl in the jungle as their entourage is taken over by a bunch of mercenaries who are trying to kill this dictator. It's incredibly stupid. It's like the family stuff in the beginning of the movie is played like a Hallmark film, but it's also kind of R-rated. It felt R-rated for me because the violence is horrible. I mean, like people get straight up mowed down and murdered and crashed in helicopters with bodies. And so it's like, you've got this sort of wholesome Hallmark Channel, like family film that John Cena's in, mixed with like this hyper violent set in another country, mercenaries, and a big shootout at the palace at the end. I thought this movie was awful. The people sitting in front of me were a bunch of kids that came into the movie. They talked during the whole movie. And normally, if anyone talks during a movie, I'll say, hey, could you please keep it down? I get like, the only time I get like super aggro if someone is talking during a film. I didn't care. And I found their banter hilarious because they were debating about whether they should leave. With the girl that was with them was totally young girl. She was completely bored. And they were just like, they talked during the film, like, let's go. And she couldn't convince her friends to leave. And everyone walked out going like, ugh, that was terrible. So the audience didn't like it. I despised it. It's coming out, I think, at the end of this month. Cannot recommend it. I mean, it's a 1 out of 10. Alan, what did you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, generally, I like John Cena. He was at Fast Money Fast, whatever that last pay-per-view was. Yeah, this one, my biggest problem with this one is it doesn't take itself seriously at all in this entire show.
Right.
The bad guy here is just kind of this overly, this kind of a goof, so to speak. And I just was just not getting into it. I think a lot of it had to do with my disappointment in not seeing the movie I really wanted to see at this point. I should also mention, that I guess they do show rated R movies because this one was a rated R movie. It's just an action movie that's strung together by a very loose plot, vain attempts at comedy, and I cannot recommend this movie at all.
Yeah, I cannot either at all. Like, it's just this is a movie that like Totally Killer could have been released in theaters. I would have had a good time knowing what it is. This movie is definitely a movie that should have gone to streaming, or even better yet, never been made. It was terrible. And I was like, oh, I was with my friend Tyler. We saw the film together, and we kept looking at each other. He even said to me halfway through the film, you want to go? And I'm like, there's only 30 minutes left in the film. We might as well see what happens. Yeah. It's terrible, but at least confirmation. They will show R-rated movies for the Regal Mystery Movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say the action is better than most movies of this of this ilk, but the story that strings it together is just very thin, and the character development is just awful. John Cena has this ugly face that he does constantly through it. I guess it's his depressed face, and it is just hard to look at.
Well, I would be depressed if I was in this movie. But yeah, no, it was bad. It was bad. Can't recommend it. Do not go see it. Don't waste your time. Like it's yeah. And I knew the movie was bad. I'll tell you when I knew the movie was bad. 5 minutes in, there's a conversation between John Cena and Christian Slater, and they're just talking in his office, and he's trying to convince him to take this job. He's going to give him 20 grand to protect this journalist to go to this South American country. All it is a security job. It's a weekend job, couple days. He gets to travel, all expenses, and 20 grand in his pocket. And he needs the money. And they're having this conversation, and the conversation goes on way longer than it should. The dialogue is terrible, but they're playing this little fanciful music like and they're just having this conversation. So it's two guys talking in a room, and the editor or the director thought, this scene is so boring. Just put some whimsical music over these two guys talking about going to this foreign country. The scene goes on for too long. And this is in the first 5-10 minutes of the movie, is this scene between Christian Slater and John Cena. And I was like, oh, this is the mark of a terrible movie. Yeah. This movie is a Hallmark film with bazookas blowing up people into chunks.
I was gonna say that music comes out of a Hallmark movie.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's bad. I don't even want to. Okay. All right. All right. You know what to do. Never see this movie. Time to pivot. We're going to talk about something else.
Oh, here, there's just one comment. John Cena. That's the look he gives you in this movie with Frankenstein face.
Friend, fire bad. Yeah, that's John Cena needs to finally play Frankenstein.